Okay, everybody. So, how many of you guys in chat are gamers? Because I'm a gamer. I play a lot of video games. And one of the games that really evolved my gamer hobby into something that it never was before was a game called DayZ Standalone. Now, I initially heard about DayZ when I was about 11 years old, scrolling through YouTube, when a Frankie on PC and 1080p video came up in my recommended. It was for Arma 2 DayZ. Now, Arma 2 DayZ was a mod for Arma 2. It was extremely laggy, buggy, barely playable. Not saying DayZ now isn't all of these things, by the way. It was really just not even worth picking up if you didn't have a supercomputer. And so his videos and the way that he made them so high quality and high production value made it such an attractive game to a young Walking Dead fan such as myself, right? But I wasn't able to play DayZ until I was able to buy DayZ Standalone and finally actually run it. And I've had the game since 2013, and DayZ Standalone continues to disappoint me. It is practically only worth playing on modded servers at this point, which is such a shame because I feel like they really should have done a lot more by now, but the lead developer, what's his name, Rocket, I think, literally left the company and went and climbed Mount Everest and just fucked off, so they don't even have a team lead. I don't even, like, the guy who made the mod is gone. Like, he just fucked off with the money. So, DayZ's basically like all but an abandoned project. It's still updating, it's still getting stuff added, it's still getting refined, but like it's not in a good state. And if you told 11-year-old me DayZ Standalone would be where it is now in like more than 10 years, I would be so upset. So goddamn upset. And as you can imagine, this genre of game where you just have this open world and there are big hordes of zombies filling up towns and cities with large amounts of country in between, and like a decent number of players out there in the world that you can potentially run into, talk to. You can either ally with them and build up a base or a camp with them, or you can, kill them and steal their loot or capture them. Like, DayZ offered a lot of these things, but it did so in the worst ways possible. DayZ has such an amazing premise, but its execution is dog shit. And pretty much anyone who's played it will agree that we are just begging, the gaming community is waiting for the concept of DayZ to be executed at a AAA game quality standard. And a few years ago, 2 years ago I should say, a game was announced that seemed like it might be just that. And I've talked about this before. Check out this trailer for a game called The Day Before.
Welcome to the short gameplay demonstration trailer for The Day Before, an upcoming open-world multiplayer survival game. The Day Before features a huge, stunningly detailed post-apocalyptic world destroyed by a terrible virus.
I'm running out of fuel.
Great, man. Awesome.
We'll look around here, I guess.
I'm getting into all of it, Avalon of Babylon.
Shall we split up?
Oh yeah, Corvus,
Yep.
I'm talking about it.
I'll find out what's in the skyscraper.
Okay.
This is
I'll
the
look
most
around here.
wish-listed game on Steam, or at least it was before it got taken down due to a copyright dispute that they did end up winning.
Let's see what we have here. Alright, alright, alright. I have found a great cowboy hat. Tell her everything's alright. And there aren't any more guns in the valley.
Easy, cowboy.
Very cringy dialogue between these two people here.
Listen up.
Almost
This is
sounds like
Woodbury
AI
Survivor
voices, doesn't
Colony
it?
speaking. If you can hear this message, it means that we have opened our doors for new survivors. We
It's
can
'cause
give
it's
you
AI.
food and shelter and ensure your safety. Here are the coordinates.
Did you hear that?
Yep, I got a message too.
Great. Maybe I can sell my junk there and get myself a better rifle.
Let's find some fuel and go.
Yeah, these are
In the
supposed to be two
Survivor
people
Colony,
talking over
you can sell and buy
like,
any
in-game
items,
voice.
as well as
Let's see.
cooperate with other players.
So basically, skip through. They do some looting inside of a building, very calm atmosphere, but then some other
Oh,
players
shit.
come in.
We've got company. Could use some help now.
The things are about to get heated.
This doesn't feel right. Yeah, your instincts are already kicking in. like The Last of Us. Like The Last of Us level quality of combat, movement, looting, and everything, but in a massively multiplayer open world. That's what they're promising it as, at least. They advertise it as an
there's too many of
MMO,
them.
open
I
world,
gotta go upstairs.
survival, base building.
Okay, I'm running toward you.
The snowstorm is starting right now, and the temperature is falling fast.
I also want you to pay very close attention to how the dialogue sounds like Google Translate English. Pay really close attention to that because it becomes relevant later.
Remember that when you shoot and make unnecessary noise, it can attract unwanted guests even more terrifying than other players.
ChatGPT didn't exist in this trailer.
The world of The Day Before is teeming with hungry hordes of bloodthirsty infected, ready to
Hordes.
tear you to pieces.
Whoa.
Phew, that was close. You should have seen this shit.
It seems he dodged a bullet. Now he's crafting a bandage so he doesn't die from bleeding.
Hey, are you upstairs already?
So, me and my friends saw this trailer years ago. And we started... Oh, I see the face there. And we started questioning whether or not this game could really meet the expectations that are being promised here. Because even if it's half as good as they're showing it off as being, if it's better than DayZ standalone, it's pretty much only competition in this respect. As far as performance and content and quality and promise for the future, then at the very least, it would be a better, like, it would be a side or upgrade from DayZ standalone, right? And that was the hope, right? However, as we got closer to release, things started to look really, really fishy. Stuff started to come out about this company that just didn't seem right. And we're going to get into that in a little bit when I put another video on in a second that kind of goes a little deeper into it. But the game launched a couple days ago, the same day as Lego Fortnite, by the way. And I was able to get my hands on it. I wasn't able to play it, not before I got my refund, that is. But I will go into more detail about my review of the game. From what I got to play of it, quote-unquote play, whenever we get to the point where we talk about what ended up happening. You see, a lot of controversy started to come up. People started to speculate as to whether or not this game is actually real. You see, the game continuously got delayed. The devs were very unwilling to show anything that wasn't obviously heavily edited and scripted gameplay. That might not even be gameplay at all, because look at this. It almost looks like it's just a render in engine. And there was no creators or like big figures confirming that this was a game that existed. Not to mention the studio itself has a really shoddy history. The highest quality game they've ever put out is Prop Night. But besides that, their history is very bad. They basically have a history of straight up scamming the buyers of their games, but like in a way that you could honestly say could be due to incompetence in making games. Like maybe they're just too new of a studio to really make good games, but they always sell off their game after a few months after release, once the player count drops to nothing. So this studio has a really bad history, and me and my friends were basically betting, are they going to be able to pull through? Because Prop Night, to be fair, was pretty successful, and that was their most recent game. Is Prop Night a good example of what the future of their games is going to be like, and they're going to use the money from it to make this game, and it's actually going to be good, or at least meet some level of the expectations? Or is Prop Night just a fluke, and this is just going to be a massive scam? These claims got even more exacerbated, and I covered this in my previous video, when we noticed that a lot of things in the game are straight up asset flips. Notably, a gas station we see in one of the trailers, which didn't make it into the game, by the way, appears to be the exact gas station that they stop at in Life is Strange 2 when they're on the road outside of Seattle. Like, down to the colors, the cobble used in the side of the building, the pumps, like, all of it, the sign. Like, it's just the same gas station with very, very tiny tweaks. So things looked really fishy with this game, but a couple days ago, the entire map is a $500 asset flip. Hey, don't spoil it. Don't spoil it. Anyway, they're charging $40 for this game, and it is the most wishlisted game on Steam. On launch day, it had over 30,000 people playing it. This is Force Gaming, one of my favorite gaming coverage YouTubers, talking about the day before and its launch and what a disaster it was. My experience was, I bought the game, optimistic, hoping to try it myself, but knowing that no matter what, like if I hated it, I was not going to play over 2 hours of it, and I'd keep an eye on the play timer so that I could still refund it and get my $40 back, right? So I bought the game, installed pretty quick despite being 50 gigabytes. I thought, 50 gigs is pretty big. 50 gigs is pretty big. That could be content. 50 gigs is a big game. Like, that could actually have some content in it. Or it could be a very poorly compressed game, very badly optimized, which is what ended up being the case. Boot up the game. You make your character. There are no options to change settings. This becomes important in a moment. You have to actually be loaded into a server in-game, able to walk around and pause the game to access your settings menu, to change video settings, to change audio settings. So the music is just blasting the whole time, and you can't change that outside of like changing the audio dials in your computer itself. And then you go to the server list. Now they advertise this game as an MMO. We come to find out each server holds 32 players, and there are 152 servers across all regions. 30,000 people are on the game trying to get in. The game can only fit 4,000 people online. There are no server queues. You can only spam click join on servers hoping to get in. And every time it does a slow fading black screen to make you think it might load you in, then says there's connection problems and tells you to try again. It doesn't even tell you the server's full. It tells you there were connection problems. And of course, when I finally did manage to get in, thankfully under 2 hours, I was able to get in. Most people were not. They really were trying to get people to play the game longer than the 2 hours that would make it so they can't refund. Interesting, huh? I finally managed to get onto a server, and it crashes. Because I don't have enough VRAM, apparently, despite the fact that I have a 2080 Ti. There was no lag in the starting screen, so I know for a fact it was just because my video settings were incompatible with my card. And unfortunately, you have to actually get into the game to change those settings. So at that point, I realized, wow, the game is literally physically unplayable for me because of this. It also has no widescreen support, so if you have a widescreen monitor, fuck you. I immediately refunded the game then. That is where my experience playing the game ended, about an hour and a half, almost hitting the 2-hour limit, trying to get into the game. I then found out, just so happens, the tutorial, before you actually get out into the world to experience the game, is just under 2 hours long. So even if you did get in right away, chances are, before you found out what the game really is, you've already gone over the 2-hour timer to get refunded by Steam. Now let's find out about the disastrous launch of the day before. I'm disappointed. The company shut down, by the way? Is that their announcement today? No way. No way did they announce today they shut down. No shot. Official statement. No fucking way. Oh my god, we did it. Wait, this is the good ending. Today, we announced the closure of Fantastic Studio. Unfortunately, the day before has failed financially, and we lack the funds to continue. All income received... This is bullshit, by the way. They absolutely... I don't believe when you get refunded from Steam that the company loses money. Is that even, like, a thing? Does the money get charged back from the company that you bought the game from when you get a Steam refund? Today... the day before has failed financially and we lack the funds to continue. All income received is being used to pay off debts to our partners. I know for a fact this is bullshit. We invested all our efforts, resources, and man-hours into the development of the Day Before, which was our first huge game. We really wanted to release new patches to reveal the full potential of the game, but unfortunately, we don't have the funding to continue the work. It's important to note that we didn't take any money from the public during the development of the Day Before. There were no pre-orders or crowdfunding campaigns. Yeah, because your scam relied on dropping it on release day to an extremely anticipating audience and to lock them in to not getting refunds. What they didn't expect was Steam opened up the refund window. Steam opened up the refund window because of all the controversy, and that's, if there is actual financial issues going on there, that's probably why. We worked tirelessly for years, pouring our blood, sweat, and tears into the game. At the moment, the future of the Day Before and prop night is unknown, but the servers will remain operational. We apologize if we didn't meet your expectations. We did everything within our power, but unfortunately, we miscalculated our capabilities. Creating games is an incredibly challenging endeavor. We're grateful to everyone who supported us during these difficult years. It's been a fantastic journey over the past 8 years. 2015, opening of the studio. 2017, release of the Wild 8, failed game they sold off after like 2 months when the player counts dropped because it was a scam. 2018, release of Dead Dozen, scam game that they sold off after the player counts dropped to literal dozens of people. That was the joke, is Dead Dozen, there's a dozen people playing it. 2018, release of Radiant 1, same case. It was also just a mobile game. 2021, release of Prop Night. Literally a one-hit wonder. It literally died overnight. No one knows what Prop Night is anymore. And then 2020, also, it was literally, like, trying to ride off the coattails of the success of Fortnite with that name. Come on, they're very unoriginal. And then 2023, the release of the Day Before. Man. I'm liking and retweeting this tweet. We won. We won, dude. So yeah, basically the game was so bad and such a massive scam, they just shut down the studio today, 4 days after their massive release. I think they're taking the money and running, by the way. I think that's what this is. This was their big ploy. They're going to drop the game and a week later take all the release money, shut down the studio, file for bankruptcy, and run. It's 2 brothers that were responsible for this, by the way. Just 2 guys who are brothers from Siberia. Anyway, does Steam still honor refunds? Yeah. Yeah, I got my game refunded. Anyway, let's find out how the launch went and how bad the game truly, truly was.
All right, so the Day Before is finally here. I played all day yesterday, streaming it for a few hours and then playing for several more off-stream myself. And I gotta say, my first impressions are not good. Things immediately began poorly. As I was downloading the game, Liam managed to finish and get in. First thing that happened after making a character, he fell through the floor, infinitely falling through space, forcing him to reboot. I thought, okay, yeah, that's kind of funny, but he's probably just unlucky. So I clicked on a random Twitch stream because I wanted to watch some gameplay while I was downloading, and the exact same thing was happening. The guy's stream that I was watching made a character and immediately fell through the floor. Like
I forgot to mention, by the way, do you want to know what the crash error said the game was called? Whenever it crashed, when I finally got into a server, Unreal Engine Survival Game is what the game is called officially in the files. Like whenever Minecraft crashes and it says Minecraft.exe has stopped working, this says Unreal Engine Survival Game has stopped working. Because guess what, guys? The entire game is an Unreal Engine store asset flip. Down to the every single item, building, the map, everything. The UI, all of it. Every single bullet type and weapon type has no difference. All of the guns do the same amount of damage. All the bullets do the same amount of damage. None of the body armors or anything have any effect whatsoever. No helmets have any effect whatsoever. Everything is just meant to look like a game, but once you actually look at it, it's not. Down to the extent of, dude, they baked in constant sounds of gunshots coming from different directions, so it sounds like there's people constantly shooting zombies in the world. Because that, to make you think that's why there's no zombies around, because there's no zombies. Like, there's like 1 or 2. But like, you're supposed to think, there's no zombies around because there's players everywhere shooting them. That's where all the zombies are at. I gotta go towards the gunshots. People found out by digging through the files, those gunshot noises are baked in. So that when you first get into the world, it sounds like you're in this really populated, massively packed world full of players. Anyway, I don't want to steal the thunder from this guy.
I literally couldn't believe it. But, you know, whatever. We'll just give it a shot ourselves, right? So I got in, booted up my stream, and the adventure began. Now, after making a character where you select from a variety of visual and class options, you wake up in Woodbury. Now, fortunately, I didn't end up falling through the floor and was able to progress, being introduced to what is essentially the game's main town or social hub full of NPCs and other players. The prologue takes you through all the major vendors and stations. There's a doctor, guns and ammo, storage, and a workbench. All the stuff was actually fine. Woodbury is a cool looking location and has the standard vendors you'd expect, and it was neat seeing other players running around. After about 20 minutes, I am then directed to the homestead. This is where they have the game's player housing. Now, having left the confines...
I don't know if he gets into it here. The player housing, once you've built your cabin and you place the cot, which is the tutorial, everything else is disabled. As in, like, it doesn't matter if you have the coins to buy, say, a couch. It's just a red outline and you can't place it. The player housing doesn't exist. Has no features beyond the 2 things you do in the tutorial. Everything else that it shows is like, you can do this if you have enough money, is completely fake. It's just there to make you think there's progression waiting for you when you're doing the tutorial, so you don't know that you should be closing the game and immediately refunding it right now.
Of the instant social hub, however, my frame rate immediately...
The run animation is absolutely ripped right out of The Last of Us, and people have done breakdowns of how many of the locations are just asset rips off of the Unreal Store, and how many of the trailers they've made are direct recreations of other game trailers shot by shot. Because there's not a single original feature in this entire game. There's very little features to be spoken of, but as far as like the window dressing they do have to make it look like a real game, it's all stuff stolen from other games. The aesthetics, the ideas, like it's basically meant to be like evocative of like other games that we know, right?
Immediately tanked. Oh, that was really... Why is that so choppy all of a sudden? Ooh, jeez.
Oh no.
What is happening? Hey guys, how's the stream, how's it running for you right now? I was getting, I don't know, about like 10 frames per second at this point. Now things did smooth out after about a minute, but this was not a good sign and turned out to be a bit of a performance foreshadowing. I proceeded to build my base, selecting from various templates. You're able to place down buildings and other stuff basically. So to start, I had access to this tent, a camp cot, and a few decorative items. And I thought this was neat. Like it seemed fine, although in all my remaining playtime, I have not once yet revisited this area, as there hasn't seemed to be a reason to do so. But so far, not so bad. Like, beyond the frame drops, a few awkward dialogue choices.
All right, your speech organ.
Pay very, very close attention to all of the voices. No voice actors are credited in this game, by the way. Every voice in the game is very obviously AI voice. It's so obviously AI voices when you listen to it.
My speech organ and the unlucky people.
Yeah, and there's also really weird translation things. Something I've noticed is like really weird about the marketing of this game too from the company making it, Fantastic. I know there's a bit of a language barrier because they're Siberian, and it's like 2 Siberian brothers that like run the company, but they use this term constantly, over and over again, excessively in all of their marketing. Kindness. They're like, we want to promote kindness in our community and kindness in the company, and we have a very kind work ethic. And they use the term kind in like as a synonym for any other word that could mean good. So like imagine a case where you'd use a positive synonym, they use kindness. And it's weird because then you get into the game and all of the characters you meet are really weirdly kind to the extent that they have no personality. They just immediately trust you. They're immediately like, here's some money. You can use me as like, welcome to Wood. Like, yeah. Also Woodbury, the name of the fucking colony that's like the central hub you go to is literally stolen from The Walking Dead, but it's spelled differently. And on top of that, they lied about it being an open world MMO. It's an extraction shooter. It's straight up a Tarkov-style extraction shooter with none of the depth that Tarkov has to its fights, looting, and progression that makes it good.
people who start out falling through the floor. This introduction 30 minutes or so was fine. Not my preferred way to start a game. I like getting into the action and not talking to NPCs for 30 straight minutes, but ultimately nothing aggressively bad had happened at this point. Well, that all changed as soon as I left the social hub and headed out into New Fortune City, or to put it another way, once it was time to actually start.
The reason why I brought up the kindness point, by the way, is it feels like the studio behind this that was scamming all these people thought that if they were like super nice and they were over the top nice, that would make people more trusting of them. So they just use the term kindness over and over again, because how could you be mean to the scammers if they're so kind and they love kindness so much? But then there's also like the weirdness of like the language barrier there.
Playing the game, things immediately took a turn for the worse. This has just been a pretty awful experience. All around, I think this game is really, really not good, but let's talk about the reasons why. For starters, the gun feedback is bad, with there being quite heavy delay on
By the way, there's no universe in which this game wasn't made by less than 10 people in less than a year. This game is said to be in development for 5 years in total at this point. It has had multiple delays. Besides just everything being put into the world from Unreal Engine Store, there is no programming that's been done. Like, no programming was done here. It's just drag and drop. So this game was almost certainly just, like, hyped up for 5 years to get as much investor money as possible. They churned out something that looked like the advertisements, and now they're taking the money and running because they just announced the shutdown of the studio on Twitter.
Shooting effects and hit registration. Many times it'll be hard to tell if you've even hit anything after shooting or how much damage you did. So for that reason, in most cases, you'll just keep shooting, hoping the thing you're aiming at dies. Now, a majority of the time, what'll happen is you fire a shot and—
By the way, fuck IGN. They still have the trailer for this game and all of its advertising up on their YouTube channel and their promotion of it. They still promote the game by not outwardly calling it a scam like it is. Like, a lot of gaming outlets are like, this is an example of the lack of integrity in gaming journalism that I wish Gamergate was actually about, is the fact that IGN has not put out a public apology already for even promoting this game in the first place, not doing their due diligence.
There's at least like a 1 to 2 second delay before you see that shot register or before the animations of your target being hit end up.
There are no hordes in the game, by the way. This is like, you will run into 1 or 2 zombies, maybe 3 at the most, and they're massively bullet spongy. And there are some boss zombies that take like a lot of bullets. Now, a limited zombie world can work, okay? Look at the Last of Us games. There's not really massive hordes of zombies in that game. It's actually like pretty like minimal as far as the amount of infected you run into. But the gameplay services that. One zombie can fuck you up, and the way that plays out is really cinematic and fun. But they don't execute that well here. It's just a city of very sparse bullet spongy zombies, which I guess technically they do that better than DayZ, but DayZ has actual depth to it and is an actual open world with nearly 100 players on some servers. This is a much smaller map with 32 players, and it's an extraction shooter.
Showing. But even worse is that in some circumstances, and this especially seems to be the case in PvP, when you're engaging with another player and dealing with their connection from their PC to the servers, and then from the servers back to you and back and forth. When you're fighting another,
like you will literally just, the desync was, it's not even like optimized in any way for playable gunfights. Like, there are people whose heads get like blown up to the size of a building due to a bug you've already seen, and if you shoot that, it's a perfect headshot and you kill them. So they think they're behind cover, but on your screen you can see their head because it's like the size of a building, so you just go boom, 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 and they're dead.
The player, this is even more exaggerated. Many times you'll unload an entire clip into the player, and then several seconds will go by. They'll run around a corner or take cover or...
For the record, there's no bleeding mechanic in this game, so they're not bleeding out after getting shot here. It's just that it takes like 5 seconds for them to die after getting lethally shot.
Go into the street, move through a door, whatever, and then after like a good 4 to 5 seconds, they just drop dead on the floor. In fact, this exact thing happened.
So yeah, basically what happened there is that guy killed him. He lost that gunfight.
They'll run around
So this gunfight here, he lost it but he didn't die until after he killed the other guy.
Corner or take cover or go into the street, move
So
through
he
a
shoots
door,
this guy to
whatever.
death.
And then after
This guy has already killed him. This guy has killed him. And this is how long it takes for the death to kick in.
like a good 4 to 5 seconds, they just drop dead on the floor. In fact,
That is every gunfight in the game.
this exact thing happened when Liam and I were in Discord chatting. We happened to be on the same server, and I ended up killing him. That was a real fight. That's a real gunfight. Is he dead?
The zombies don't really move.
Oh, did you kill me?
You?
Yeah, I just died.
Wait, that was you?
Yeah. Did you get my stuff?
Also, 50% of the time, you kill a player and their body instantly disappears and you can't loot them.
Absolutely loaded, dude.
There's no grouping up either.
What's hilarious about this, beyond
There's no way to join with a friend and like make sure you can group up and stuff.
fact that happened, was you can see I unload into him. He then runs around the truck and ends up falling dead several feet and a few seconds later. Like, it is the registration of these shots happening is super bad. In addition to that, I would say the sound effects in this game are not great, but I'm not.
Yeah, the sad part is too, with these bones, if you put this into the hands of a decent studio, they could actually make it into something serviceable. The problem is, Ethan, most of the stuff we saw in the trailers just doesn't exist in the game, particularly like in terms of the map. The map is roughly... The map is smaller than the amount of the Lego Fortnite map we've explored. It's small. It's the city, and then a much smaller area than the city of, like, country area. And it's just an extraction shooter. There's 5 extraction points. You go in, you do missions that give you 1,000 coins each, you loot what you can. It turns out there are working vehicles, but... they drive, but the second you hit anything, they fall through the world, including players. Like, they ramp off of... there's no collision with them, so, like, you can't run over a player or zombies or anything. And they fall through the world once they hit, like, any, environment. And they cost, like, millions of coins. One quest gives you 1,000 coins. Loot is worth, like, dozens of coins. One person's managed to get a car, and it's broken as fuck. They are just there as window dressing. Everything in the game is just there to look cool. Nah, Fallout 76 is miles better than this. Yeah, it's so much better. Like, dude, modern Fallout 76 is pretty fucking good. You can straight up get the NCR Ranger armor in Fallout 76 and go and build your fucking town. It's good. Fallout 76 nowadays is actually good. Like, if you want this effect, but good, Fallout 76 is gonna achieve it. Yeah, Fallout 76, despite its launch issues, is an actual game. Zan, want to play it? I'm down to play it, yeah. My internet's fast as fuck. I can install a game in, like, 20 minutes. So if you ever want to play a certain game, yeah. Fallout 76 also has in-game voice IP. So, like, if I'm raiding, like, a supermarket and, like, killing all the ghouls inside and another player rolls up, I can be like, hey, what's up? And they can be like, yo, how you doing? And we can have a conversation in there after slaughtering the ghouls. It's actually pretty fun.
Even so much talking about the sounds of the gunshots themselves. Like, do they sound like guns? Whatever. But it's how the game handles positional and directional audio that appears to be quite poor. The distance and direction of gunshots, or really any sounds in the game, seem terribly inaccurate. So you'll hear something that sounds like it's just next door, like maybe a few feet away from you, but it ends up being around the block or even streets over. Gunshots, player sounds like footsteps.
Oh, for a little bit of, like, reference, by the way, this is the first game I have ever refunded.
Zombie gurgles, alarms. Oh, and did I mention the alarms?
Oh, the alarms.
They are omnipresent, aggressively and hilariously so. I basically need to go back to Woodbury. Oh, sorry,
You're so
guys.
loud, too.
Just have to run by this alarm. One of the 100 alarms triggered right now.
So the alarms are a mechanic that was supposed to be in the game. From the trailers, it was like you would go into a store, and if you didn't, like, immediately put in the code to turn off the alarm that would go off, zombies would start hoarding up on the store because of the loud noise, and players would too, and you'd have to quickly loot and get out of there. That's the idea. A cool idea. In action, though, there's no zombies, and there's no real players out in the world, so it just ends up being loud alarm playing everywhere, and no one turns them off. So, like, everywhere you go, you just hear these blaring alarms, and there's no zombies being attracted to them. There's no hordes running around, so it's just like loud alarms that you can't turn down because the game doesn't have individual sound settings.
These are just constantly going off all the time, everywhere. It's super loud, and as far as I could tell, there was no way of shutting them off. I couldn't shoot them. I couldn't interact with the pads to turn them off.
So in the trailers, they show it as possible to interact with the pads and turn them off. I've seen 2 streamers be able to like actually interact with these pads, but most of the things in the environment that look lootable are not lootable. Like about 10% are, but they're like the same assets, but half, like 10% of them are lootable. Like there's these exact duffel bags, and you'll see them in the environment, and 10% of them are lootable. And on top of that, once something's been looted, it shows as the same as something that's not lootable. And then on top of that, there's input errors where things that can be interacted with just don't have the pop-up.
Off, as we had seen in preview gameplay footage. Now, I was told by people that you needed to actually pick a character who basically had the perk that let them shut off the alarms. Apparently, I didn't, so I was just constantly listening to alarms blaring everywhere from basically every shop, every door that you could walk into. Besides the larger buildings, all those small stores.
A horrible mechanic that doesn't interact with anything and is just annoying, but a mechanic at least.
Along the roads appear to have an alarm, and they were just constantly being triggered. It was super annoying. I don't know what else to say. I'm also fairly certain that the game pumps out fake gunshot sounds. Now, this sounds very conspiratorial, right? But
this has been confirmed by looking through the game files.
It's like, oh, they're putting out fake gun sounds to make it sound like there's players playing when there actually isn't. I'm not accusing them of doing that, but I do think they're just putting fake gun sounds in there just for the heck of it, or it seems to be the case if this isn't some sort of a bug. So what happened is I was walking around the city and I kept hearing shots nearby. So I would move towards that sound's location. It looked to be like it was inside of a building, but I couldn't see the entrance. So I would like walk around the entire perimeter of the building looking for an entrance, looking for the source of the sound, but there wasn't any. This was one of those building blocks that had no actual storefront or entrance to it, but I kept hearing the shots and I kept running around the building. There was never a source of those shots other than them just being generated. There's also things like, you know, the zombie AI in this game isn't very good. It doesn't make a lot of sense most of the time.
It's worse
Sometimes
than
they
DayZ.
won't see you when you're right next to them, or you could be sprinting by them and
it's
nothing will
somehow
happen. Other
buggier than
times they'll be
DayZ.
hyper aware of you. It's just
and as much as those like destruction physics look cool, like the heads popping and like the zombies getting like their limbs blown off, that is just it's just taken out of the Unreal Store. Like you can literally just go on the Unreal Store, boot up Unreal Engine, port in these zombies with these like mechanics and ragdoll physics and destruction physics. It's just literally copy pasted in from the store. I believe that Asmongold did a full accounting because his fans like really dug through the Unreal Store and found every asset they could that's used in the game, and they found the game cost roughly $3,000 to make. They charged $40,000. They charged $40 for it on release. In early access, by the way. That was their try to get out of jail free card, was it's in early access. So yeah, they spent $4,000 on the assets for the game, copy pasted them in, made this in less than 6 months, I would bet, and took the money and ran. I don't know whether or not the refunds get charged back from them or from Steam is the one who gets charged back, but I hope it's the company. It's probably Steam though.
Very inconsistent, really. Animations also of these zombies, they are very few animations. The ones that are there aren't very good. They don't actually sync up with the hits and the movement of the character. Everything is very glitchy and buggy. Speaking of bugs and glitch, dude, lots of them. The ones that we've seen personally so far are things like zombies being stuck in vehicles or on the terrain. Players getting stuck in terrain. We saw players locked behind fences. The falling through the floor that we mentioned at the beginning. There were many instances of players just not appearing. For example, when in the social hub, you would see just like the data pads, the tablets floating around. There would be a player kneeling looking at it, but you just didn't see the player, so all you ended up with was a floating data pad. And in fact, if we want to go back to the gunshot thing, maybe it's the case that the shots were real, but I couldn't see the players, because we've seen that there can be invisible players. We've seen all sorts of issues with animations, bugs, and glitches. We know that invisible players are a thing. It's happened in the social hub at least.
Yes.
So
everything is aesthetically meant to look like stuff that's at least vaguely familiar. They did a trailer where there's this like woman that's the character, and she looks very close to Lara Croft. Very close. They're very shameless about it. Like it's the Woodbury is the name of the Survivor Colony hub. Woodbury is the place in The Walking Dead. Like everything. Also, the mall from the game, while it is a real mall, is right out of Spider-Man Miles Morales, the mall in New York, the big one that's all done up for Christmas. Yeah, it's exactly that. Just ripped straight from Spider-Man Miles Morales. Yeah, they were shameless.
So maybe the gunshot sound thing being fake isn't the reality, but maybe there's just invisible players running around shooting.
They're probably
that we
getting
just can't
sued.
see, but we can hear them. That's a possibility as well. Many, many, many instances of character animations glitching out. One frequent example that we saw was instead of like seeing a player running as they would be on their screen, we would see them in a kneeling position, just sliding at sprinting speed across the floor, just not moving, as if they were crouched, like looking in their inventory or looking at their data pad. They were in that position permanently, but sprinting at full speed. It's just buggy, glitchy. It's not good. And then yes, those alarms constantly going off. If that is not intentional, maybe we can file that under the bugs and glitches side of things. And then, as alluded to earlier on,
like,
the performance.
It's so sad because I feel like if you just handed this game off to a competent studio in its current state, in 3 years they could make something that's actually like a real competitor to DayZ. The world with some expansion could be really good, some optimization. The graphics aren't bad. They're better than DayZ. The performance is just shit and worse than DayZ. And the zombies are buggy and worse than DayZ. And there's no actual features or content. No weapon, like the weapon you get when you start out is as good as any other weapon. Every rifle is as good as every pistol. The bullets and all the bullet types do the same amount of damage. Helmets and body armor do nothing. They're just cosmetic. Cars don't work. Base building is nothing but placing a tent and a cot. There's no in-game voice IP, by the way. You can't talk to people over voice in the game. There's only in-game, like, text chat.
Has not been good. All around, I would say this game performs very badly. Now, I have a decent PC. I'm not ultimately the
We just want well-optimized 3D Zomboid. That's what we want. I love Project Zomboid. At least one of the devs of Project Zomboid, of which I believe there are 4, is a fan of my content. But, like, I love Project Zomboid, but I want it to be what it is, right? Like, I want there to be isometric, like, zombie survival games. They're great. It is a completely different genre, though, when we talk about 3D survival games. If you take the amount of content and functionality of Zomboid and put it in a 3D environment, it's a completely different genre, and it's one that we need to see fulfilled. It's like Hytale and what Hytale is going to be for, like, the block game building RPG genre. Like, fulfilling what it's meant to be. Thank God Hytale has literally zero chance of being a scam like this game. They've got the oversight and funding of Riot Games, and Riot doesn't fuck around. Also, they've already added the Quebec from Hytale onto the Riot launcher. Next to, like, the Valorant and the League characters. Like, Riot is part of their brand, or Hytale is part of Riot's branding now. Like, Hytale, it's gonna be big. It's not just legit, it's gonna be fucking big.
Top of the line, but I've got an i7 11700K. I've got 64 gig.
I have no doubt. My bet is that Hytale's release date is going to coincide in terms of its announcement with the release of Arcane Season 2. That's what I believe. They used the release of Arcane Season 2 or Season 1 to hype up Hytale and released a trailer for Hytale alongside the celebration event for Arcane Season 1 that Riot did. I think for Arcane Season 2, that's when they're gonna, like, around that time, as part of, like, the hype, they're going to announce the release date for Hytale, or at least the release window.
Gigs of RAM. I got a GeForce RTX 3080. For me, the game ran like garbage. Frame rate was all over the place.
A pillow that's already in the works. Have you seen the Necrit videos? Like, Necrit has seen it, and he says it looks fucking good. It's set in Runeterra, and we are going to play as our own heroes, but, like, it's going to have multiple expansions, and yeah, it's going to be fucking awesome. Yeah, a pillow, you don't know? Like, that's been in the works for years now, and it is, like, one of Riot's biggest projects that's in the pipeline. Like, they are trying to beat World of Warcraft and FF14 with this shit. Like, it's being called the Runeterra MMO. It takes place in the world of League of Legends. It's not the League of Legends MMO, it's the Runeterra MMO. It takes place, and due to the new, like, changes Riot's done, it takes place in Arcane's canon. Arcane is now canon. And they're doing all one single canon for League's lore. So from here on out, everything they release is part of the same canon, including Arcane. So this new MMO will take place in Arcane's universe and world. Yeah. Yeah, you can go Zonite. You're going to be able to be a Zonite or from Piltover or a Noxian or a Shuriman. It's going to be really cool. It's going to be really cool.
Very inconsistent. The only thing that was consistent was the stuttering that would happen, in addition to hitching that would regularly occur as you move through the city, presumably because the game is loading in area.
Nope, Riot recently, as of like 2 months ago, announced, I'm going to make an Ionian Catboy. Nice. As of a couple weeks ago, it was 2 months ago, Riot announced that from here on out, including Arcane, all League content exists in one singular canon. Obviously, the Summoner's Rift and the battles aren't canon, but League lore from here on out will all be one concise, consolidated canon. No more alternate universes and stuff, besides like the KDA stuff, I think. Besides like certain skins, right? Like, I think the skins thing will continue to be alternate versions of those characters, but as for like the mainline characters, that is their lore. That is the mainline League lore. And Arcane is canon.
Areas causing these little mini hitches as the loading happens, but the frame rate, the performance was just bad across the board. Now, at first I thought that was because I was streaming, but this persisted outside of the streaming. When I was no longer streaming, when I was no longer recording gameplay, just running natively on my PC, which has those settings. Again, I don't have the absolute beastiest PC, but that's not bad. RTX 3080, 11700K, 64 gigs of RAM. My PC generally runs most games pretty well, even at a 2K resolution. This ran bad. I played around with all the settings. I lowered the visual presets. I tried to...
You can't access this screen until you've finally gotten into a server. And because of the default resolution settings, I could, like, my game crashed instantly upon getting into a server. So it was impossible for me to play the game. So I had to instantly uninstall and refund it because there was literally no way for me to fix this problem without going over the refund timer. Because I'd been, like, trying to get into the servers for an hour and a half, and I only had 30 minutes to try the game before it was time to refund. By that point, I was watching some streamers in my side monitor, and I was like, this isn't looking good. This isn't looking good.
Different
This is the day before.
DLSS settings, low latency mode, nothing seemed to cut
it's a scam.
If anything, it appeared like the longer
today.
I played,
wait, Ethan,
progressively...
were you here for that? Are you here, Ethan? Fantastic just tweeted out an announcement they're shutting down their studio today. They claim that they didn't make enough money off of the launch. I think they took as much money as they could and they're running away with it, and they're going to file for bankruptcy. Not personal bankruptcy, they're going to file the company for bankruptcy, those two brothers. I'm going to show you guys those two brothers in a minute and tell you guys what I think the story. I'm going to tell you guys my theory of what happened behind the scenes with this game. And it's going to be, I'm going to be very, very harsh. What even was Prop Night anyway? Basically imagine Prop Hunt, but a standalone game. And it was fairly well executed, but apparently according to people who actually liked it and played it, they ruined it. And it's been unplayable for like years now. They basically abandoned it. As they do all their games.
I don't know if this is issues with caching. I don't know if this issues with memory leaks, but yes, for me, performance of this game has not been great. Now, I know for some people, it probably is fine because that's just the nature of PC gaming. Performance can be all over the place, but judging by Steam reviews and from a lot of at least the anecdotal,
this is now in the top 10 most negatively reviewed games on Steam of all time now.
Accounts that I've heard, it seems like performance being an issue is pretty widespread. Anytime that there were more than a few zombies nearby, which wasn't very often, but whenever there were more than like 2 to 3 zombies, that also seemed to cause some massive FPS drops, which actually kind of leans into my suspicion when they early on, prior to release, announced that this game would focus on PvP and that the zombie side of things wouldn't be a major emphasis.
He said he's playing this on a 4080, right? This is how it runs on a 4080.
That might be due to the fact that maybe they want fewer zombies to help with general performance of the game. I thought that was a possibility.
That is not
It seems like that might be the case, or at least, again, in my personal anecdotal experience, whenever there was more than like 2 zombies nearby, performance definitely took a hit. So yeah, performance is bad. There's bugs and glitches all over the place.
At least in buildings,
and just generally, I didn't think the game felt good to play. The shooting, also the movement, I would say, felt really kind of sluggish and lethargic. That's the best way I would describe it. For argument's sake, Let's just say they fix all of that. All of these issues get resolved. They improve the gunplay to make it feel better, the hit registration, the animations and the sounds. They fix the bugs and the glitches, and performance is ironed out so it doesn't run so poorly, and the latency problems, let's say they get addressed in a few days or weeks from now as the launch rush dies down. If we were to snap our fingers and all of those issues were resolved, what we're left with is still a shallow content and pretty features lacking game. What kind of game is this, by the way? We've not yet touched on that. Well, originally, and still today even, The Day Before is described by the developer as a post-apocalyptic open-world MMO survival game. It is not that, and I actually can't believe that they are still calling that. So go on their Steam page, it's just labeled as this open-world MMO survival.
Yesterday, they changed the tags on Steam. You can look through this sort of like API list of updates to a Steam page for a game that the developers have made on their end. They changed it from multiplayer to single player in the tags because they finally admitted that when you're out in the world, there's no other players. They changed it from base build. So like they got rid of the open world and made it extraction shooter. They got rid of survival. They made it single player, then removed the single player tag again, and they removed base building as well. So they actively removed a bunch of tags. It's gone from overwhelmingly negative to mostly negative, and on top of that, they've paid for positive Steam reviews. This is a more recent development, but if you look at the subreddit for this game, which is just all about exposing the different like scammy aspects of all of this, way more stuff than I could list is in that subreddit. There is a big fucking wave of positive reviews the game has gotten to change it from overwhelmingly negative to mostly negative, and they're all the same line of text in Russian. Siberian studio, by the way. 2 Siberian brothers run this company. So they're trying to review positive bomb their own game with bots that are very obvious to try to make this get out of being one of the most overwhelmingly negative reviewed games on Steam. It's in the top 10.
Game. This is not an open world MMO. It's not an MMO at all, and I would barely call it a survival game. This is an extraction game. You pick what gear you want to have equipped, you then load into the map, go around scavenging for items while navigating the zombies and other players and trying to escape alive.
At least there's not a timer.
If you die, you drop most of your stuff. Structurally, this is like most other extraction games, but
conceptually, this is what Tarkov is supposed to end up being in the long run, but they didn't execute it with zombies. Tarkov, like, whenever it's finished its development, like, right now there's, like, 2 maps they have left to add. Then after they've added the last 2 maps, the goal is to break all the barriers between them and make it one big open world with no timers, just instanced lobbies. And you would go in, and you would have to, like, gather your loot, and, like, they want to make it a much more long-form experience for the raids, and have you go from, like, interchange to customs and fucking they want you to make like lots and lots of travel through the world and extract across the map, doing missions and stuff. And the idea is that your hideout will be a place you'll physically explore and build up. But for now, it's like a little more bare bones. But Tarkov executes all the concepts this game promised way better. Tarkov is an actual game, and it is good, and it's actually pretty well optimized, and it's addictive as fuck. There's progression. Like, you go into, like, dorms, and you find a graphics card, and you're like, oh, fuck, I need to hoard this, so I need, like, 6 graphics cards to make my Bitcoin miner, because you can make a Bitcoin miner in your hideout, and that generates Bitcoins you can sell to some of the traders, which gets you a constant, a source of income, which is really important, because in Tarkov, you can just go broke. You just straight up go broke and not have any guns in your stash and have to go in with nothing but a knife and hope you find a gun and raid.
Then it's severely lacking in a lot of what you expect. For one, there are barely any zombies. At most, I would see groups of 2 to 3, but very rarely. I could walk blocks and only see a single zombie in the streets, while also, interestingly enough, not coming across many other players. For a post-apocalyptic zombie survival MMO, as they call it, the zombies are but a footnote here. Just in general as well, there is not a lot going on, not very much to see and do in this game. Loot seems few and far between, and mechanically, besides shooting, looting. Looting is all there is to do. Even the quest system is just looting. Every single mission that I have seen so far was just a fetch quest. It would direct you to an area and tell you to loot specific items found.
Well, I've been playing Tarkov more recently, so that's my opinion is based on how Tarkov is like as of like a month ago.
Within a certain vicinity. There's just not a lot of things. It's also very mechanics and features lacking. You can jump, you can run, you can loot, you can...
There's no vaulting, which means there's air, because the map was just like asset flipped. It wasn't made for the game that it is. It wasn't made. The map wasn't like designed for the features and movement abilities the characters have. So in many areas you can just like slide up into environments and go to places you're not supposed to and break the game. But in other areas, you can fall into, say, like a little pit, like a little trench, like a gutter on the side of the road. And you'd think like, oh, in a well-designed game that's at hip height, I could just vault over and get up onto the street level. Wait, why is there no vaulting button? What? Hold on, let me look through the controls. There's no vaulting button. Let me try jumping. Wait, the jump's nowhere near high enough. Wait. Am I just stuck? And you're actually just stuck. You have to wait for someone to come kill you. Zombies can't do it either because zombies don't have the pathing or AI to jump down from any form of like drop. And so you're stuck there and you have to wait for eventually a player to come kill you so you can make a new character and start all over again, having lost all your stuff. It's not a game. It's not a game. It's just a playground of nothing that they put out that looks like the trailers, so people would be distracted long enough for the 2-hour timer to be expelled and for people to not be able to refund. They were really banking on people not, and that's why they released so few servers. So many people would just be hyped to be in the game, waiting to get into a server for more than 2 hours, or maybe less, but then the tutorial's so long that by the time they realize the game's a fake, they've been in the game for 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 hours.
Shoot. That's all you need, right? But there's a lot of extra layers of things that should be in here but aren't. There's no mantling, which absolutely blows my mind. This is a UE5 game. I'm pretty sure you can just buy mantling from the Unreal Engine store. I'm being very reductive, but I can't believe there's not mantling in this game. It should definitely be in here, and they better add it. There's also no melee in this game, which is extra perplexing because I swear we have seen melee in preview pre-launch footage. There was melee, there were melee weapons. There's no melee system in this game. You can't even butt with your weapon. There are no melee weapons from what we've seen. There is no environmental engagement beyond looting, occasionally opening doors, although you need keypads for any doors that can be opened, and I guess there are elevators that you can call and start as well, but very little engagement with the environments. Things like, I don't know, being able to climb ladders, for example, that's not in the game. Again, no mantling system in the game. Engaging with the world, not a lot to it, which is part of what leads to it feeling very, very static. There are no events in the game as far as we can tell. Things like horde modes or loot drops happening, things that you might expect from an extraction game. None of that is present here. There doesn't appear to be any bosses or bigger zombie enemies for better loot, again, from what I've seen. Maybe this just requires more playtime. There's also currently no progression in the game, although that was alluded to even in the character creation screen. It mentioned something about progression. You picked classes with different skills, but no progression seems to be in here. And also no VoIP, which as difficult and frustrating as it can be listening to other players in these games, it definitely does add to a lot of the charm. But
I don't want to play the whole video because this guy's videos are really, really good and I like them a lot, and I want you guys to go check out his channel. He's done some really good coverage of the Wait for Hytale, by the way. If you guys want to get like more of a breakdown of Hytale's development and the news coming out of it, he doesn't like he does a lot of research, and he's got the sources and everything, and he's probably the most reliable source of Hytale info besides Quebec Corner. His name is Force Gaming, and of course, here is a link to the video. His coverage of the day before, by the way, has also been very good. Me and Ethan have, of course, been sort of like hovering over this game, wondering whether or not it's going to be a scam when it's released, and sure enough it was. I was hoping I'd be able to experience the game itself and find out that it's a scam via playing it, but unfortunately it was just so impossible and unplayable to get into the game via just many different shortcomings the game had. I couldn't even get into the world to experience how bad it was myself. I had to watch streams and videos. Which really sucks, because, you know, I wanted to at least experience the disappointment for myself, you know? But really quickly, let's hope that we can get to this before they take down their channel and delete all their videos. Oh, no, they've done it already. Oh, they've taken the money and ran. Dog. They were so fast with it. They were so fast. Is their website still up? Hold on. I want to see if their website is still up. I bet it's already down. Yeah, boy. Across the fucking board. Published December 12th. Ah, yes. December. Hold on. Can I get... Where's my... Ah, yes. December 12th. I wonder where they posted this from. Dog. That's so shameless. Oof. Hold on. Let me... Oh, I need to check the replies on the tweet, dude. I need to check the replies on the tweet. Where do you think you're going? Refund those people now, then you can say goodbye and never come back. This will go down in the gaming history books and videos as one of the worst run scams of all time. Refund everyone who bought it too. You sold a long-term gas and you're shutting it down after less than a week. Game as a service. Scam. Y'all taken the money and made and are running from your scam. You false advertised the day before for years and put out a game nothing like what you advertised. We all know you aren't shutting down because you lack funds, but because you're taking the money and running. Oh wow, you guys are actual pieces of shit. I hope someone puts together a nice lawsuit. The game has failed financially, and you say that 4 days after release? At least wait a whole month instead of just lying. Closing a studio 1 week, less than 1 week, after a terrible release is sus. Sounds more like thanks for your money, we're closing now, don't contact us, see ya. Yeah, because all the money was going to come from the release. The scam was to take the money and run. Do not buy this game if it's not already obvious. Holy shit. This was an absolute scam from day one. This game should be delisted from Steam and you should never be involved in the industry in any capacity ever again. Fuck off. Good take, Big Fry. I strongly advise players to report... I already reported this game on Steam, by the way, myself. I reported this game to try to get it taken down. I strongly advise players to report this game on Steam and seek immediate refunds. It's an appalling scam. Falsely advertised and shutting down just 4 days post-launch. This is a grossly deceptive practice that must be addressed. By the way, they had a bunch of unpaid interns in their Discord server, like, promoting the game, saying over and over again it's not an extraction game, because people theorized it might be, because, like, the idea of what they were promising is really ambitious, and we thought they might cop out and make it an extraction game, which was, you know, as long as they achieved a good extraction game, it would have been okay, but they had these guys keep on lying. And the head mod, the one guy who's still in the Discord advocating for them, I'm curious what his response is to the studio shutting down. His name is Levi Tate, put together to be Levitate, and he banned me from the Day Before Discord like a year ago because I made fun of him for being an Andrew Tate fan. Last I saw, as of a day ago, he was still defending the game and the company because he's that bought in the Discord and still banning people who say anything negative about it in the Discord server. Yeah. That's their, like, volunteer team. They also said the game was developed by volunteers. Now, would you guys like to see the two people who scammed everybody? Bro, they've wiped so much of their stuff. The first guy's name is Edward Gotovitsev, and this is him. Now, there's something about this guy. This is one of the brothers. Now, there's something about this guy. You might notice, it's very clear in this photo, it might jump out at you, that I noticed in the promotional material when they would talk about the game in the development for the Day Before. He is not AI generated, he's a real person, but there's something that stood out to me. The braces. Now, call me classist, but braces are typically something that if your parents can afford it, they get it for you when you're young. And if you can't afford it when you're young, and you don't get them, and you grow up without braces, and then you suddenly, as an adult, come into a bunch of money, getting braces is on, like, commonly one of the first things you do because you've got, like, a shit ton of money and you're like, all right, I want a, like, good-ass smile to match it because I couldn't afford this when I was younger. Yeah, braces sucks, but it's better to get it over with, right? The sooner the better. And I noticed that both brothers had braces. I'm going to try to find the other brother, too. Here's the other guy, yeah. This is the other brother. In all of their promotional material, they're there with very uncanny smiles, showing their braces on beaches. And on top of that, I noticed that, like, these guys clearly didn't really have money, right? Like, these guys probably didn't grow up with money, and then suddenly, with you know, this game coming along, they suddenly have a bunch of money. And something that what I realized was these two brothers basically had a genius scam idea. These Russian brothers decide, holy shit, we can scam these gamers by putting together an Unreal asset flip that is exactly what a massive portion of the gaming community has wanted forever. A game that is currently, without a massive AAA studio and funding behind it, literally impossible to make. And then we can literally run it on, delaying the game for years and years and years to build up hype, get a bunch of people to buy it on launch day, make it so they had no idea the game is a scam until it's too late to refund, then we shut down the studio after a week and take the money and run. I think that's exactly what happened. These two brothers, I think these are the only two people involved with any of this. And claims that there are more than these two people involved with this are all lies. I think these two were behind everything. They came up with this idea, they took the money, they're going to file the company for bankruptcy, and they're going to retire. Anyone else having Streamlabs issues? No, Ethan, do you need some help? I can help you out. That's the one area of expertise I have where I could help you with a tech problem, potentially. If it's a real problem and something you should always do, Ethan, always open OBS Studio, and do not use Streamlabs OBS, by the way. Do not use Streamlabs OBS. Use just OBS Studio, and always launch it in admin mode. Always right-click and launch in administrative mode. Otherwise, it has limited processing power for some reason, and particularly when streaming games, I notice that there's quite a bit of frame loss whenever I don't open OBS in administrative mode. Siberia's full name is the Soviet Siberian States of the Russian Federation. Cool! Anyway, yeah, they basically went on, like, tropical vacations, and you could see they were on tropical vacations in all of the promotional material. Like, they weren't even at an office. And, yeah, the game was supposedly also made completely remotely. I wish I could bring up their promotional material so we could see all of the lies. Here, you know what? I think we could find a video responding to their promotional material. I know this is going on for quite some time, but I'm passionate about this. I'm like, I've wanted a game to dethrone DayZ for so long, and I wanted this game to not be a scam. I really wanted it to not be a scam, but wanting something doesn't make it real. I think Big Fry might have done a good video covering this. Oh yeah, it was called Life at Fantastic. Oh, it'll give you the best idea of how weird and, like, red flaggy this studio was from the start. Hold on. Life at Fantastic. I wonder if there's a re-upload. Here's the video that they've taken down, but it's a reaction to it. So we're going to try to see how much we can get out of it, right? Here's Edward Gotovskev on a tropical beach, not in Russia, clearly, because he's enjoying his tropical vacation and brand new smile after, like, scamming a bunch of shareholders, no doubt. A bunch of people, like Mytona, probably just got scammed as well.
Today we are going to show you our office at Fantastic and how we work on the day before, the most anticipated game on Steam Digital Store. Let's fly to Singapore!
Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to
They had a supposed studio in Singapore.
Pathfinder Plays, and I just finished watching Fantastic, the day before development team's video, Life at Fantastic, and I gotta say, I don't know what I expect. Well, I do know what I expected. I figured I would have seen some video.
Here, this is like bits from the thing here, but I want to...
Game on the Steam Digital Store. Madam's working Washing women at work laughing at. You actually click on description, and the only thing in the description is the words download continent and then the link to the continentapp.com.
They announced, so for those who don't know, this video, Life at Fantastic, was hyped up as like a big announcement for the day before. They dropped it, and nothing about it had anything to do with the day before. It was just a video about how these guys are having fun with the money they've gotten from doing their partnership with Mytona. So in hindsight, this is a gloating video about what they're doing with our money. And then on top of that, when you look, in the description, it was actually an ad for this Continent app that they made, which is like a calendar app or something like that, which is now shut down. It doesn't exist anymore. They shut that down too. They took the money on and ran on that as well. It's literally what they've always done with every game they've made. It's been a pretty long-running scam these two brothers have been running.
Might as well have just put Life at Fantastic, hashtag sponsor, hashtag ad. That's what they should have done. It would have been a bit more honest, but then again, they were using the clout that they gained from the Steam store and the wish list and the wants of the public to fuel the viewership onto this video. Now, that may be slightly deceitful, but honestly, that's like any YouTuber ever whenever they get a sponsorship of some kind, so I can't really blame them with that one. But then they also did show some new hardware that they got, ThinkPads, RTX powered machines, and they did say that a lot of this was used for the development of their games. Now, they
scammed Nvidia, they scammed Mytona, they scammed everybody, they scammed Steam. I really hope there are lawsuits to come out of this, but judging by the fact they're Russian, based in Singapore, there's a pretty good chance nothing comes of this, and they're pretty much immune. They're definitely blacklisted from the gaming industry after this, I hope. I hope that, like, if they ever try to start this up again and their names are brought up, that their names, those two brothers' names, and everyone else who is a part of this, their names need to be attached to this scam forever. But yeah, I think at most it was those two brothers and a group of friends got together, had an idea to just grift money off of making scam games, and thought, you know what, this will be the big one. Let's make the game DayZ was supposed to be, but it's fake, and it's a scam, and we take the money a few days after launch day and run before the refunds have all rolled in. You got it. And that's what they did. It's exactly what they've done. So disappointing.